quick little rundown of how our eyes work. So we have two eyes. We see in stereoscopic, whenever we're walking around on the street. If you have one eye, you're going to see mono, or you're not going to see any depth. So what happens is when we film stereoscopic 3D, we want to recreate what we see with two eyes when you're walking around in real life. So we have a left and right eye camera, and we recreate exactly what your eyes do. So for an example, when something comes closer to you and your eyes toe in slightly, and when it goes back to the horizon, when you look at the horizon, your eyes are slightly more parallel. That's what we do with the cameras. We toe them in, we converge them. There's one word you're going to hear a lot about in 3D, which is convergence. We converge them in. And then we also toe them in to create the view of a smaller distance between your eye or a larger distance between your eye. So we're binocular creatures. Most animals are. It's something that we were created with so that we could see objects. I think the cavemen needed it to see people throwing spears at them. We have stereoscopic vision just so that we can see depth, we can see volumetric depth in people and objects, and that's how we were created. Children, on the other hand, have eyes that are slightly closer together. Adult eyes are 2.5 inches apart. Children's eyes are slightly smaller. So they see a different version of 3D, and they really enjoy it. So where did 3D come from? You've obviously heard about 3D. It's obviously not new. It's been around for as long as still photography has been around. People have been shooting stereoscopic images. It was tried successfully at different periods in history, as you know, with horror movies and other films in the 20s and the 50s, and in the 80s, films like Jaws 3D. Those were shot on film, captured with two cameras, post-produced on film and shown on film in the theaters. The main reason why it wasn't a huge success is that the technology required that you project from two different pieces of film with two different lamps and two different projectors, and there's a lot of technological issues. If they went out of sync, if one of the film's rolls broke and projections spliced it together and missed a few frames, the left and right eye would run out of sync and create a very, very bad experience for the audience. So, looking back, I don't take this lightly, but looking back, there have been two very significant shifts in the history of cinema. You could probably guess what they are. The first one was obviously when we went from sound, from silent films to sound. There always was a piano accompaniment on film, so they weren't really silent. But when we started the talkies, it really changed the way cinema was and changed drama and the storytelling that we all experience now. The next big wave was, of course, color. Once color came in, we didn't really go back. And I think the important thing to look at when technology is invented, if it's a big enough movement, we don't really go backwards. When sound came in, filmmakers didn't really go back to silent film. Certainly you can make a silent film, you can do all kinds of creative interpretations of storytelling, but generally the industry didn't go backwards. The same with color. You can still shoot a color film today, go crazy. But people will do that for creative reasons, but typically the industry did not go back to black and white. So when Dorothy says, "You're not in Kansas anymore," it's a very, very interesting moment in the history of cinema, because in that film, she went to Oz and left the black and white world behind. Now, no mistake, if you saw Avatar, the general in that says, "We're not in Kansas anymore." And what I think James Cameron meant by that was, we are going into stereoscopic 3D, and we are not going back. So, 2010 has been called by many people the year of 3D. So obviously it's not a new thing. There's been many years of 3D. But this year, because it is digital and because we now have the technology to create perfect imagery throughout the process, it is very successful, and it will continue to be. So, big question, why now? Why do we care? Why is 3D happening? One word, it's digital. As you know, if you're here for the media conference or the TV conference, digital has changed a lot of things. It's changed television, it's changed our ability to move information. We can now send high-definition files by email. Digital has changed a lot of things. It certainly has changed filmmaking and television and moving image media, regardless of where it is, on the web. But because the process of filming stereoscopic digital 3D is captured digitally, then it is post-produced digitally, and it's shown digitally, like we're going to see in a few minutes off this projector.